먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News. Co-hosting the AI Seoul Summit, the leaders of South Korea and Britain hold a global conversation on how artificial intelligence should be governed to foster innovation, as well as on the safety and inclusion of diverse social groups and the global South. The OECD praises South Korea's extended efforts to help developing countries through its aid policy, saying the country is assuming more global responsibility. President Yoon vetoes a special bill on whether the government meddled in the military's investigation into a Marine's death during a search and rescue operation last year. The presidential office cites the main opposition Democratic Party railroading the bill. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with a global conversation on the governance of the artificial intelligence that's transforming the world. The AI Seoul Summit kicks off this evening with a virtual leader session co-chaired by President Yoon and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Dong-woon has the details.
The leaders of South Korea and Britain are leading the global conversation on how artificial intelligence should be governed across the world to ensure that digital progress changes lives for the better. Yoon and Rishi Sunak on Tuesday evening's Seoul time are co-hosting the AI Seoul Summit, launching the virtual top-level talks where the leaders of the Group of 7 nations, Singapore and Australia, have been invited to participate, along with the heads of international organizations and global tech firms like Samsung, Amazon, Google and OpenAI. The AI Seoul Summit is a follow-up to the AI Safety Summit held in the UK's Bletchley Park last year, which saw a world-first agreement between governments to jointly address the risks posed by the fast-evolving technology. This year, the focus will expand to measures to promote innovation, as well as the safety and inclusion of diverse social groups and the global South.
Participants will hold a balanced discussion on not only the risks posed by AI, but also its positive aspects and how AI can contribute to humanity.
Ahead of the summit, Yoon and Sunak on Monday published a joint op-ed emphasizing the need for standards on AI to harness its full potential to tackle global challenges such as poverty and climate change and prevent a global race to the bottom. President Yoon, beginning with his New York initiative in 2022, has actively promoted global efforts to form standards on advancing digital innovation for the benefit of humanity, while expanding access and rights to gain from technology.
Korea is a powerhouse for AI memory chips, but the UK is third in the world in AI, so we have really advanced AI capabilities. So we have really complementing strengths there. But what's most important is that the UK and Korea are like-minded partners with shared values. So it's really important for us to work together to ensure that technologies are developed, governed and deployed in ways that uphold democratic values and protect human rights. Because it's only when we get that right can we really harness safely the potential of these technologies, which can help us solve global challenges like climate change. But we have to get.
A South Korean presidential official said, while China hasn't been invited to the Leaders' Summit, it has agreed to participate in a ministerial meeting, noting that Beijing did not take part in the more sensitive discussions last year. The official said while many countries agree on the need for AI norms, there are some differences in their approaches given their different forms of governance. These contrasts will likely be discussed in detail during the summit. The Leaders' Summit will be followed by an in-person ministerial conference on Wednesday, alongside the AI Global Forum in Seoul, to expand the conversation to wider sectors of society. Oh Dong-woon, Arirang News.
Now, following the AI Seoul Summit taking place, we delve deeper into the use of it. What are its benefits and, on the other hand, drawbacks? Our An Sung-jin takes a closer look.
Artificial intelligence has been around for a while. Some believe that the use of AI can help them save time and allow them to focus on more important things.
The tasks you enjoy doing, do those. The tasks you don't enjoy doing, find a way to get AI to help you.
I think AI will be used even more in the future. It can help with things like research, tasks that are a bit tedious.
According to Microsoft's latest report, 3 out of 4 people use AI in their work. In Korea, it's nearly 73%. AI is no longer seen as a technological disruption, but rather a force of transformation. One expert says that our use of AI, as well as the problems that derive from it, are inevitable.
One is social innovation, and the other is an increase in productivity. That's why we use AI. It's good at things that humans were previously unable to do.
However, as AI becomes more sophisticated and widespread, danger follows, such as deepfakes, loss of jobs, and privacy violation issues. The same expert added that as the use of AI accelerates, social consensus is needed to regulate it.
There is a need for an international organization that can control the use of it, which establishes a social consensus between profit and privacy control for AI.
Another expert agrees and also cautions how it's not merely about creating regulations.
The easy answer is we write the law or the regulation to target the appropriate part of AI. But I think the better answer, the more complex, the key is making sure that the regulation is appropriately scoped.
Our use of AI is only going to increase as it becomes woven into the fabric of our lives. But guidance and regulations are needed for its proper integration into our daily lives. 안성진, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, Seoul and Washington have begun a second round of negotiations on sharing the cost of stationing American troops in Korea. The two sides will discuss the issue for 3 days until Thursday here in Seoul. Our Bae Eun-ji has the details.
A bus carrying South Korean delegates pulls up at a building in central Seoul on Tuesday morning. U.S. officials were also seen entering. They're there for 3 days of defense cost-sharing talks, led by South Korea's chief negotiator from the Foreign Ministry, Lee Tae-woo, and his American counterpart, Linda Specht, from the U.S. State Department. The meeting will be focused on how much South Korea will shoulder to maintain the more than 28,000 U.S. Forces Korea service members, starting in 2026. The two sides held their first round of talks in Hawaii last month, earlier than expected in an apparent move to avoid any possible fallout from the re-election of former U.S. President Donald Trump in November. Trump recently questioned the need for U.S. troops to defend a, quote, wealthy country like Korea, suggesting Washington could withdraw its troops if Seoul does not pay more to support them. The current deal signed in 2021 is set to expire at the end of 2025. South Korea agreed to raise the funding by 13.9% and pay around 1.18 trillion Korean won, or about $1 billion US. Since 1991, South Korea and the U.S. have signed agreements on this issue 11 times, with negotiations taking between 6 months and a year and a half. There will likely be several more rounds of talks before the two countries are able to reach an agreement. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
South Korea has received an overall positive assessment from OECD members for the country's extended efforts to help developing countries through its aid policy. Our Choi Min-jung explains.
South Korea is well on its way to increasing its influence and presence in the international community. The OECD's Development Assistance Committee on Tuesday credited South Korea's development cooperation efforts in a peer review held once every 5 to 6 years. It said South Korea is at a pivotal juncture as it rapidly scales up official development assistance and assumes more global responsibility. The latest report praised the country's steady increase in the ODA budget and the diversification of assistance. South Korea's ODA budget for this year is at a record high of 6.3 trillion won, equal to some $4.6 billion US. This is a 31% increase from the previous year. Deputy Director of the Office for Government Policy Coordination, Park Gu-yeon, said the hike comes in line with the country's efforts to fulfill its responsibilities as a global pivotal state in the international community. The peer review provides a set of recommendations for Korea to strengthen strategic partnerships with partners, such as increasing the number of qualified staff working in development across government and delegating more authority to partner country offices. South Korea has gradually increased its ODA budget since joining the committee in 2010. The country ranked 14th among 31 member countries in terms of ODA size in 2023. Choi Min-dang, Arirang News.
The International Criminal Court is seeking arrest warrants for the leaders of Israel and Hamas on war crime charges. Both sides are strongly protesting. Our Yoon has more.
With thousands of civilians dead from the war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, the International Criminal Court is now seeking arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas's leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar. According to the ICC's chief prosecutor Karim Khan on Monday, the court is seeking warrants for both on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity over the October 7th attacks on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza,
as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and/or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhumane acts.
The warrant also includes Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and two other Hamas leaders, Mohammed Diab Ibrahim al-Masri and Ismail Haniyeh. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed the court's decision, calling it absurd and deceitful, adding that the move was meant to target the entire state of Israel.
It is aimed against the IDF soldiers who are fighting with the utmost bravery against the vile murderers of Hamas, who attacked us with horrendous brutality on October 7th.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden also criticized the ICC's decision, calling it outrageous that it's seeking to arrest Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. He stressed that there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. Hamas, too, has condemned the ICC. In a statement, Hamas separately denounced what it described as attempts to equate the victim with the executioner. Experts say that while it's unlikely that the Israeli and Hamas leaders will actually face prosecution, the arrest warrant could make it difficult for them to travel overseas, while a trial in court would be especially embarrassing for the Israeli government. Yoon, Arirang News.
On the local front, following a Marine's death during a search and rescue operation last year, the opposition parties have claimed the government pressured the military's investigation to alter a list of charges to be drawn up and recently passed a special investigation bill. And President Yoon vetoed the bill. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
As anticipated, President Yoon on Tuesday vetoed a special investigation bill to look into whether the government interfered with the military's investigation into a young Marine's death last year. Among several reasons the presidential office gave was that the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea railroaded the bill.
The special prosecutor bill, railroaded by the opposition party, destroys the precious constitutional tradition that both the ruling and opposition parties have upheld for decades. Furthermore, under the principle of the separation of powers, the president's appointment authority for the special prosecutor must come with a guarantee that's substantial.
In passing the bill, the DP insisted that the key issue at stake was finding out whether the government, especially someone at the presidential office, pressured the preliminary investigation by the military so that the commander of the fallen Marines division be left off the list of suspects being transferred to the police. Amid a partisan backlash, President Yoon had already hinted at vetoing the bill, saying there were ongoing investigations by the police and the Corruption Investigations Office, and if those results did not satisfy the public, he would then call for a special probe himself. In response, the major opposition party and civic organizations gathered together to condemn President Yoon's decision, saying that the majority of citizens are calling for this special probe.
The people of our country will join forces with our opposition party to judge the unilateral action and arrogance of the Yoon Suk-yeol administration to ensure we override this veto of the special probe bill.
Meanwhile, the ruling People Power Party agreed with the president's decision, noting that the DP's push for a special counsel bill was without doubt a political move. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The Nat'l Assembly on Tuesday adopted a confirmation hearing report on Oh Dong-woon, the nominee to head the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials. The rival members of the Assembly's Legislation and Judiciary Committee reached a bipartisan agreement over the adoption of the report. The main opposition Democratic Party, which had questioned Oh's suitability throughout the process due to a series of allegations, including one of being behind an unlawful transfer of assets to his daughter, said it came to the decision because he had spoken of his willingness to investigate anyone according to principles. The ruling People Power Party evaluated Oh as qualified for the post, saying there were no critical concerns about his eligibility. He is expected to be inaugurated quickly after an official appointment by the president, filling a 4-month gap in the post left empty since the former chief's term ended. Oh is a lawyer who became a judge in 1998 and has served as a presiding judge in several district courts. Household debt fell in the first quarter for the first time in a year amid fewer housing transactions and high borrowing costs. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun explains.
Household debt fell for the first time in a year in South Korea amid high borrowing costs and the sluggish real estate market. According to preliminary data released by the Bank of Korea on Tuesday, outstanding household credit in the first quarter of the year fell by 0.1%, some 2.5 trillion Korean won or over $1.8 billion compared to the previous quarter. As a result, it stood at over $1.3 trillion by the end of March. Household credit is an umbrella term for household debt that combines loans from banks and other financial institutions with merchandise credit, including credit card bills that have not been paid off. This is the first time since this period last year that this figure has logged an on-quarter decline, with household credit having increased from the second quarter of last year. Looking at household loans alone, the figure fell by around $146 million on quarter, again logging the first on-quarter drop in a year. And the reason behind this was seen in an increase in mortgage loans that was lower than the previous quarter. The Bank of Korea explained that a decrease in the supply of policy loans and housing transactions around the end of last year affected housing loans in the first quarter. It also commented on the country's ongoing issue of household debt to GDP ratio, saying that it has seen a trend of it falling annually in 2022 and 2023, and expects the trend to continue in the first quarter of this year. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The South Korean government will carry out safety inspections on certain items bought online directly from overseas platforms such as China's Temu by having relevant ministries purchase them. Officials from the Office for Government Policy Coordination said Tuesday that relevant ministries will each buy and inspect designated items that are seeing a sharp increase in consumption or are deemed hazardous. If the items are considered dangerous, the government will request a suspension of sales and inform consumers. This comes after the government scrapped its new policy to ban certain goods bought directly overseas without the Korea certification safety mark due to backlash from the public. In other news, one of the best-known alcohol products of South Korea, Soju, is steadily making a bigger name for itself, not just here, but in overseas markets. This time, the focus is on a more expensive type of the drink set to hit the global market. Our Lee Soo-jin takes us inside a local distillery to find out why.
The buzz is in the bottle, and at this local distillery, it's a distilled Soju buzz.
From France's champagne to Mexico's tequila, there are countries that have their signature alcohol products. For South Korea, it's Soju, which has been making a name for itself worldwide.
The value of Soju exports surpassed the $100 million mark for the first time in 10 years in 2023. But what's behind its growing global popularity?
I think it was in K-dramas. Like, it's really good, and like they have different flavors as well.
I had heard a lot about it through word of mouth. Like my friend that I'm here with and my sister are very into the Korean culture.
There are two main methods for producing soju, one that makes distilled soju, considered to be a more traditional variety, and the other is diluted soju, which is more commercially available in the famous green-tinted bottles. But local companies believe that it's a lesser-known distilled soju that will drive exports in the future because of its higher quality.
We're currently exporting to 25 different countries and planning to focus on expanding these because we believe that demand for premium distilled alcohol will continue growing.
One of the reasons causing the difference in quality is the type of raw ingredients that are used. Diluted soju is often made from imported tapioca, which is cheaper than distilled soju's locally produced rice that's steamed under pressure before undergoing 2 rounds of fermentation. And once the fermentation processes are completed, the distillation process is carried out, just once for distilled soju. On the other hand, diluted soju is made from a concentrate that has been distilled several times to increase the alcohol content. While higher alcohol content means that more soju can be produced from the concentrate, the numerous distillations cause it to lose its natural flavor, making the addition of artificial sweeteners necessary, unlike distilled soju. And here, the quality is further enhanced by preserving the soju in traditional earthenwares for 3 months to maximize the flavor. With local distilleries like this targeting consumer behavior that's shifting to rank quality above price, distilled soju and its traditional processing methods are expected to gain more recognition worldwide. 이수진, 아리랑 뉴스.
There was summer-like heat in western regions today, including Seoul. However, the situation was a little different in eastern parts of the country due to easterly winds flowing in. In Gangneung and Pohang, it was below 20 degrees. Tomorrow will be a bit different. As the wind direction changes, high temperatures are expected in eastern regions. In the middle of the day, summer-like heat is expected with Daegu and Gangneung at 29 degrees Celsius. Dry weather advisories have been in place in mountainous areas of Jeju Island for 5 days. As the atmosphere is still dry, please take extra precautions against wildfires. Tomorrow, Seoul and Gwangju will start off at 16 degrees. It will move up to 24 in Busan, Jeju 23 degrees. It will be mostly sunny for the rest of the week, and there is more rain forecast nationwide between Sunday and Monday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with the most up-to-date news at 9 a.m. tomorrow with New Day at Arirang. Good night.
Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries.